manly. Welcome, welcome, everybody, to the Drop Culture Podcast. I'm Brock. Sitting over to my right, I got Dan.
Yes, you do.
And then over to the left of me, I got Tyson.
I'm still here. He chained me up last week, and I'm still here.
I threw you a bone, like a chicken leg, so
I've ate, so I have nothing to complain about.
You've ate and you vaped, so you got it.
God,
I'm okay.
God.
So this week, we've been kicking around this idea for a while to make this podcast. Basically, it's a passion project. So it'd be a fan passion project of almost any of the franchises that you might see, anything that we grew up with loving.
Yeah, anything that you wanted to really do, and what you could do with it if you had kind of free reign. You know what I mean?
Final cut, unlimited budget. Whoever you wanted to hire for it would say yes. Almost anything, just for it.
Kind of like a fan, fan passion project?
Yeah, like a fan passion project. Because we all grew up in the era to where, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of put it.
The best way I'd put it is, for me, like say I grew up playing with action figures or toys or something, and I would imagine movies or something in my head, and then of course you grow up and you start watching movies and things like that. And we're so lucky to live in an era where they do a lot of comic book movies now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to read a lot of comic books too, as everyone here likes to read the comics, into the pulp and into the wood pulp, and we're all pretty much big cinephiles here too. So to me, it's kind of like, what would you do if you could act out, you're playing with your toys and you want to move the pieces and set the stage and do your thing, like if you had your G.I. Joes or your Transformers and you're out there and
you could be like, this is fucking my,
what would you do?
Aliens movie.
You make a USO show
Yeah.
for your G.I. Joe guys with a Super 8 camera you bought at a yard sale.
Nice.
That's what I did.
Yeah, there you go.
See, we all have this passion for making this stuff, and I think that us fleshing out some of these ideas. So anybody listening, we really kind of had basic ideas for everything, and we're going to kind of flesh them out with you guys listening. And hopefully it's entertaining enough to where we might do another one of these, but do our own individual, like,
original
ideas on
yeah,
something.
because, again, like we were talking about before, I mean, I think if any one of us, I don't mean to speak for you guys, but if I had a movie studio, I would definitely be funding cool, original sci-fi ideas.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Horror
or
movies for
mystery, drama, whatever. Just,
Yeah.
I'd be like, I love this script. Go make it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Right.
yeah, it's like you could do whatever you want to. And this would be your first one that kind of leads you into that.
Except, like, penetration. I don't want... That's a different genre,
Yeah, no double penetration on this one.
Well, if that's where the money is.
Ready, Charlie?
First you got to make a porno film, then you got to make a horror film, and then you could do what you want.
That's right.
The movie
at my
studio
age,
way.
if you don't do DVD-A, you ain't doing nothing.
Sorry, Charlie.
All right, so first off, we're going to have Tyson's pitch on this one. So go for it, Tyson.
Right, so like I was saying, it's kind of the genre fantasy picks, and one of the things that I really like is DC Comics, and one of the things I was a little disappointed about 2017, a couple films that disappointed me that year, among them The Dark Tower and Justice League, was a little disappointing. Don't get me wrong, I'm a DC fan. I like to see parademons on screen. I like there are things I like about the movie. But my idea is what I would do if I were to make a Justice League movie or franchise. Essentially, this would be a 2-part movie that hopefully they would film the second part at the same time.
Okay.
And release it a la The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions or whatever. So it would end on a cliffhanger. And
like Back to the Future style.
Yep, so it would end on a cliffhanger, and then the movie would come out like 6 months later, or like, I guess, a year later, like they did Infinity War and Endgame, I guess.
Right.
Sure.
And now we live in a post-Endgame world, so this idea, I've had it for a while, might not be as fresh, but it's still, the Justice League movie I would make would essentially be, I don't know what you would call it necessarily, the working title that I would have would be Justice League versus Suicide Squad, because they have already done kind of the Batman v Superman thing.
Okay.
So you could call it any number of things. Like Justice League Mortal was what George Miller's script was going to be called, and I would take influence from that. Also, like Grant Morrison's JLA series, and two specific stories that are recent in the Justice League Rebirth, Justice League versus Suicide Squad, and there is the bulk of the story would be based off of the Trinity War storyline that ran through the New 52 in 2013, 2014 that led into another thing called Forever Evil. But specifically, it would be based on the Trinity War storyline where, and these are just some bullet points here. So essentially, you would start the movie and the Justice League would be like around and they would be recruiting people. And one of the new recruits would be Plastic Man. And Plastic Man's a criminal, he has a criminal background. So he would be a red herring later in the story. You would think that he's a criminal, but he's really not because there's a mole in the Justice League. Meanwhile, Amanda Waller is setting up her Task Force X. So maybe it would be like Justice League Task Force X or something like that. The Justice League with like a colon and then a subtitle. I don't know. You guys might have to help me out with that. But essentially, she assembles a Justice League, much like they mentioned in the movie Suicide Squad, which has already been out. So I'll try and keep some of that canon, but we can, we don't have to hold to
what's
like everything.
canon now?
Well, I'm just saying
I'm just saying there's a new Suicide Squad coming out that's going to be different.
But yeah, exactly. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work, like with my idea. But that movie still should be like canon enough because it's going to have like Harley Quinn in it and Boomerang in it and stuff like that. And I would keep those characters, maybe not Harley Quinn, but essentially like the Trinity War storyline and all that leading up to it in the New 52 when that launched. There would be Task Force X they would find counterpoints to the Justice League. So you would have someone like Bronze Tiger, would be there to fight like Batman, or like Wonder Woman would have someone to fight like Johnny Sorrow, like he's in the Justice League versus Suicide Squad, where he's like a magical kind of character. Essentially, they have counterparts for each one. Like Aquaman, they have Killer Croc, or they would use King Shark. And then you got like Superman. My idea would be to take out Superman right away. And in the Trinity War storyline, the mole is a female Atom. So she can shrink, and she puts a sliver of kryptonite inside of Superman's head. So I don't know how you would do this exactly, but Superman would be there, and then somehow he would get sick, like with kryptonite poisoning, and he'd be like in a bed for a lot of the movie.
Sure.
Because you want to take him off the table right away. And so people are like, whoa, what's going on? And so some bullet points would be like Wonder Woman and Shazam would team up to go on a magical kind of side plot to meet, I would have them either meet John Constantine or Zatanna, because they're looking for a magical artifact, because this whole thing starts with someone like a B-list villain, like a Dr. Light or a Felix Faust, being caught by the Justice League on the top of the movie while they're doing a mission, right? And he has like a bunch of like warriors who are under his control, and he's like in, I don't know, somewhere in like Africa or somewhere weird like that. And he's like warning of a magical artifact. Okay, so they're looking for a magical artifact. In the Trinity War storyline, it's Pandora's box. We've already seen this kind of with like the other movies with the Infinity, stones and the mother boxes. So
but it wouldn't be like the Spear of Destiny or anything like that too, because that plays into DC quite a bit.
Sure,
but they've already had that in concept.
I have the end figured out. The end is it's not an actual artifact; it's a doorway.
Oh.
So whatever they're dealing with is like a doorway. The way it ends on a cliffhanger. So like the Suicide Squad or Task Force X is like being set up to go against the Justice League, while the Justice League is out looking for like a magical artifact because something's going on with like magic in the DC universe. And that maybe could be a way to take Superman off the table because one of his weaknesses,
he's affected by magic.
Right. So you would introduce Shazam into the Justice League, and you would keep Cyborg and Aquaman maybe, and he would, I don't know. I was thinking that him and King Shark would kind of battle with Black Manta at some point, but you don't want to cram like too many characters in there. I don't want to have like too many DC characters.
Well, maybe have the core group of the Justice League, or maybe like you said, the two, like it starts with Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman she sees like it's the end of the mission or something like that, and
Right.
she's got off on her own. Then she figures out she needs to find something magical, and then her and Shazam.
I was pulling from that Justice League Dark issue when Jeff Lemire started writing it, like issue 11 or something like that, where they go after Felix Faust and he has like this black orb or something. So maybe that could be it. It could just be like this big dark like black magic thing. Anyway, like Shazam and Wonder Woman,
some sort of MacGuffin.
yeah, some sort of
Yes.
MacGuffin. But the twist at the end is it's not a magical artifact that can like destroy the world or do anything. It's a doorway.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's like a key then.
It's like a key. That's
Yeah.
right. It's a key.
Yeah.
So it's a key to, because at the end of it, I want it to end in the Bermuda Triangle. That's
Okay.
important. But I was also thinking like Aquaman would go off on like a side mission, maybe with Mera to deal with something. I don't know. I was trying to make sure everyone kind of had something to do,
In
But-
their own realms.
kind of in their own realms, but like so they're not all just in one area. They're all
Yeah.
kind of teaming up in weird ways and going out
They're
and
not
doing
in
stuff.
Minnesota trying to.
But I do wanna keep,
defeat
like,
something.
I do want to keep Batman and like Plastic Man, The Flash, and Wonder Woman, and Aquaman and Cyborg, and
Okay.
then you got Shazam in there, so that might even be too. And then Superman's like taken off the table because he's sick with like magic poison or something.
Or Kryptonite Sliver.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
What about Green Lantern? Would you have anything going on in space?
I wouldn't introduce Green Lantern yet
Okay.
because they haven't done that yet, and I feel like that could be its own thing. I have a whole nother idea of like an old Hal Jordan, taking from like the Emerald Dawn.
Okay.
Or no, the Emerald Twilight storyline where he goes crazy kind of and like
Yeah.
kills a bunch of the Green Lanterns. Essentially, I would do like Training Day in space with like an old Hal Jordan. But
that sounds pretty cool too.
but I digress. But
Fuck this.
so
Yeah.
so Waller also sends Harley Quinn on a side mission. I was thinking they could introduce Killer Frost,
Okay.
and I think they would replace Killer Croc with King Shark. You'd
Which
have-
I think is what's happening in the James Gunn Suicide
hopefully,
Squad.
yeah, hopefully we'll see. And then you
Right,
still got
pretty sure.
Boomerang to go with the Flash. The other thing is what they don't know is, and I would use Katana too because they already established her,
Absolutely.
and she's a female like character who's cool and like
Yeah.
it has magical like in that already. I would have them introduce the new character Killer Frost, and then Amanda Waller sends Harley Quinn and Killer Frost on like a side quest too, or whatever. These are just some of the bullet points I have, and then they end up on like the same path as Shazam and Wonder Woman, where maybe they meet Zatanna, and then they meet John Constantine, and he brings him to her. She brings them to them, and it's like, oh shit, what are you doing here? So
Yeah.
now they kind of got to work together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so essentially, I don't know how it would all happen, but someone would get some new tech at Blackgate in the beginning of the movie, and essentially it all ends in, I want to see the Justice League on the shores of an island, like a deserted island out in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle during the day. And there's some pretty cool art and cool scenes of that in Justice League versus Suicide Squad. It's a little bit different, but essentially we all meet up there with everyone on the playing field there. And, like some battles are going on, whatnot. And someone like Flag or one of the Task Force X guys, they have a piece of technology that everyone thinks there's a mole in the Justice League, but it's not. It's like in the Task Force X guys' technology, like maybe Deadshot or Bronze Tiger. Someone doesn't know what's on them, like Katana, and that's Grid. And Grid is the evil version of Cyborg. So he basically takes over Cyborg once he gets into him. And just like in the comic, he's like, I don't need you anymore. So he, uses his technology to basically rip the husk of Cyborg's body out, throws him away because he doesn't need him anymore. Now we got an evil Cyborg who opens the door where they don't know it's a doorway, but they had to be in the Bermuda Triangle because it opens a door to Earth 3, wherein the crime syndicate is then let in.
Okay.
And it ends on a cliffhanger, and you have to get actors who are, so like when Ben Affleck was going to be Batman, I would cast like Matt Damon as Owlman.
Oh,
So it has to be like an actor contemporary, and there'll be like a big cameo where in the end, they all step out of this doorway, and it's like, you see like 3 or 4 big actors playing the opposites, like
of the other big actors.
Yeah, so like
Ultraman. And
like Ultraman, you would be like a kind of a mob boss X guy, like an Italiano kind of guy who fucking just crushes up the kryptonite and snorts it. Like, so when you go back to like the first act of the next movie, that's the first thing is Batman's like, oh shit, I have contingencies for all this. Remember?
Yeah, yeah.
So he takes
yeah.
out some kryptonite and like shoots him with it, but the guy's just like, and just fucking like snorts it. And like Johnny Quick would be like the fast guy, but he has to shoot up like a drug to make him go fast. And you'd have like Superwoman who'd
So
be
the first act of the second movie would be that